We're getting into the big one now, which is our teaching strategies. And as I created this, I thought, man, I'm really giving you a miniature version of a teaching degree. And so if this feels a little bit heavy, it's okay to just take 1 or 2 bits and work with it. But I'm hopefully going to share with you lots of ideas in this space. So firstly, goal setting. Goal setting, we know, is one of those high impact strategies. We always have a learning intention that the teacher will set for the class, but sometimes kids need to have their individual goal. So your goal for today is to make sure that you work for 2 minutes without hopping off your chair. Or look, your goal for today is to get those 10 summary questions done. Start with just 3. Maybe you need to pitch it up for a high school level sort of question. But goal setting and then checking in again at the end is really effective, especially if it's part of your routine. If students come knowing that every lesson or every small group, you're going to ask them what their goal is, or you're going to let them know and you're going to check in at the end, it can be really effective use of that tool. We also have explicit instruction. Now, this is something that we hear a lot in education, but when I came to actually writing down what is it, it was a little bit tricky, but this is what we've come to, okay? When we are explicitly teaching, we actually don't ask for any students to tell us what they think they know, because we don't want any misconceptions spoken out loud, right? So when we're teaching something explicitly, we say, this is how we do ABC, or this is how we do this a strategy for maths, or whatever it is. So we're actually not asking the students, we're telling them how it's done correctly. We're then going to model how that's done. So it might be a sample question. It could be in their activity book or whatever they're working through. And then you're showing their brain that new concept in the correct way. So that's what explicit instruction is. It means that we're not actually asking kids to put their hands up and tell us what they know at that point. We're actually just really clearly showing the correct way to do something. So if we're, introducing times tables for the first time, it's probably a good idea to start with explicit instruction. This is how we do this. Okay. After you've had some explicit instruction, you might choose to do what's called a worked example. So I'm going to do it myself as the teacher, and I'm going to show you, which is the explicit part of it. Then we are going to do it together. So you might turn and talk to your partner and you might have a go together. And then you do it on your own and independently have a go. So that's another strategy that you can always call on, is that we start with the teacher, and then we might do it all together or in smaller groups or in pairs, and then individually kids will repeat that. We've also got individual feedback. This is one that you sort of do on the fly. So the kids will be working in front of you in that small group setting and you can see that they're a bit stuck. It's a good idea to think about the language you use when you're giving feedback. So these are some of the things I like to say. I can see where your brain got confused. Let's do this together. Okay, I'm not going to ask them if they want help, especially secondary students. They don't want to say yes, that they need help, okay? You can see that they need help. So I will generally sit down beside a high school student, get shoulder to shoulder. Remember, I was talking about that body language. And I'll say to them, show me where you're at with this question. Show me what you've written as your response. And it's a show me. And then I say something like, have you thought about when the teacher explained this? Or I can see that this part here is actually incorrect at the moment, but would you like, I will help you get it correct. Let's correct it together. So it's taking out that you got it wrong and actually saying, let's do it together. I can see this is the spot where you got confused. Now, I've written here, address misunderstandings on the spot, because we don't want them going home with a misunderstanding, going to sleep and converting that into their long-term memory, and then it's harder to retrain their brain. So what we actually want to do is, if we see something where they've got it a little bit wrong, we actually want to address that right there on the spot. But the tricky part is that sometimes we're helping students with content that is actually above our own understanding as teacher aides. And so it's a good idea to make a note and say, I'm just going to let the teacher know to check in with you on this concept. And make sure you then communicate that with the classroom teacher, that they got this concept wrong, please work with them again, or I need you to know as the class teacher. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of language when you're giving individual feedback and addressing any misunderstandings on the spot. I hope your brains are feeling okay. We've gotten through a lot already, but there's a little way to go.